Hey, what's going on, everybody? I want to welcome you all to another episode of the Counterpoise podcast, coming to you in live and in effect right now. We are looking forward to having a great show today. I am one of your co-hosts, Everett Stevenson, joined with my other co-host.
Hey, everybody. My name is Malik Foster. I'm a co-host for the Counterpoise podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, everybody. I am the third co-host. My name is Samantha Adams, and we have, per usual, a great topic. This one is really interesting. So this week, we're going to be discussing the rise in the boomer business and business owners retiring, and if Black Americans will seek the opportunity left behind from the gap that they leave. So in other words, baby boomers. Let's talk about that. Baby boomers is a generation. I'm about to pull up what year of birth range they are, baby. Anyway, and they're one of the largest generations. So because a lot of them were born after war. Like I think it was the Vietnam War. No, not Vietnam. It was after World War II. That's when it started. It's from 1946 to 1964, and they have over 65.2 million people within that generation. And so a lot of them within the last, I want to say 10 years or so have been 10, maybe 15 years or so have been retiring. And the baby boomers who own businesses, when they leave, what happens to their businesses, right? Do they close down? Do they pass them along to, younger generations, like in their family, or do they sell them off? Like, what are they doing with them? And so now there's going to be this huge gap that's going to leave an opportunity for people to kind of step in and take over those businesses. But this week we're going to talk about who. So we found a clip that we're going to play, and we're going to kind of break it down, chop it up about it, and kind of go from there. Malik, do you have the clip?
Yep. I'm about to pull it up right now. Can y'all see my screen?
Yep.
I'm playing video right now.
So I was on the interwebs recently and I saw this, a post from this gentleman named Ben Kelly, who's saying that the baby boomer generation is about to retire and there's a bunch of businesses that they own that we can own, stuff like laundromats, parking lots, car washes. And that made me think of something. I posted this last week, and that turned into a huge discussion about Black immigrants versus Black Americans being able to open businesses in this country. So I called up one of my homeboys and I told him, that the math was mathing for me, right? Like if the boomers are about to retire and they have all these businesses that make a lot of money, but don't really have a whole lot of barriers of entry, then isn't this a great opportunity for Black Americans and other Black people from, wherever they may be to own businesses in our community? And this is what he told me. He said that maybe Black immigrants would take up some of those businesses, but not Black Americans. He said Black Americans are obsessed with this ideal of education as their way out of the community. He said, we talk about Black Wall Street and Tulsa, Oklahoma and all these things, but we ain't actually trying to do that. Ain't nobody sending their child to college to come back home and run a corner store. So those businesses will be available, but Black Americans are not going to take them, which means that people who don't look like us are going to come in our communities and continue to profit off of us. I'm very, very interested in hearing.
For a second. Hold on for a second. I want to pause. There's a couple things that he said that I wanted to address first before we just go through the whole video. First off, he said like these small businesses like parking lots and laundromats and things like that. One of the things that was on that list, though, I don't know if y'all noticed it, it said a CPA firm. That is not a small business, okay? That is definitely something that would be considered to be quote unquote elite, because being a CPA, you have to have a lot of education. Getting your CPA license is that similar to getting a law degree, based on how strenuous it is and how much work you have to put in and all the studying and all that. So I thought that was a little strange, and then he didn't say it. He kind of skipped over it. And then the last point that he made that his friend stated, I don't agree when he said that Black Americans are not trying as it relates to like getting into businesses. I think he's right to a degree with regards to education. Black people definitely lean heavily on education, in part because we were deprived of education for hundreds of years. You know what I'm saying? But I do believe today's world is different, right? I think that there are a lot more parents trying to set their children up for business ownership, owning land, finding different streams of income other than working for another person. You actually see it a lot more. You see more people trying to become more financially literate, trying to earn more passive income, and also too, just trying to create generational wealth. And one of the ways to create generational wealth is to have a business. And so I don't necessarily agree that Black Americans will not try to fill in that gap. I think that some of the issues for Black people in trying to fill in that gap comes from the aspect of systemic racism and the ability to get, whatever it is they need to get in order to be able to obtain those businesses. So I just wanted to go ahead and say that. I don't know if you guys had anything on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Malik.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, go ahead. You can go first.
Nah, so one of the things that I think that I heard too, like to kind of follow up what Sam was talking about, was the education as a way out. And I think that is, like you said, something that's been pushed because we do know generally that, with knowledge and with understanding, you know what I'm saying, it can open up doors for you to have different avenues to be successful, right? So that is true. But one of the things that I think that, we always say as well, and we said here on the show, is that, what the type of education that you receive is going to be vital, right? Just going and getting, say, a general education degree isn't necessarily going to be as helpful in today's society as, say, maybe having a degree in engineering or, say, teaching or nursing or something to that effect, where you can kind of come out of the world and be more gainfully employed. Another thing that I think that he said was, again, it's not like Black American families are looking to send their children off to school to have them come home and work in like local community stores, like you said, to come back and run a local business at home. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would I send you away to come back and do this when you could just stay in the community and learn these things, right? I think that was vital, because I think it kind of takes out the understanding of, or the desire for people to see that, you can have the opportunity of building up your community and bringing your services back, right? Like, so let's say you do become an engineer or something like that. You do become a lawyer. You do become a doctor, and you decide to, say, open up your own practice in your own environment. That is something that I think would be honorable. That is something that I think that parents would look to see their children do and would love to see their children do, go off, receive a certain education, and then come back into their community and use that education to help build up that community. That part I do disagree with him on, but I understand it from the standpoint of saying, like, I'm not going to send my kid to school to be an accountant just to learn how to run the books here at our local laundromat. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I can just teach you that on a direct path and not necessarily need you to leave or pay for an education as costly as it can be in today's society, just to work something that we already have in place. You know what I'm saying? We've already been doing it. We just need you to learn the skill set and to kind of keep it going.
Right. So I wanted to kind of add on to you guys' comments with the whole marketing aspect of things. I think as a community, Black Americans need to do better in terms of marketing people's path to success in the business aspect, right? So I think that we're not really gearing our community towards, business ownership and that a pathway to success. I do agree that, there was a focus on education because that was a good starting point for many Americans, right? Get a college degree, you got a stable career, a job, because business ownership isn't for everyone. Although I do think in today's age, we just need to keep promoting and trying to influence people. Hey, business ownership, you can lead a successful life. You can have good balance, because when it comes to businesses, people think, oh, it's too difficult. I need a lot of startup capital. And I think that's kind of contrary to what actually is the case. You can start a business nowadays for very low costs. It doesn't have to be thousands and thousands of dollars. You also have other avenues where you can get capital, such as banks, other different outlets with the popularity of cryptocurrency and other outlets that can provide you funding, even friends, family, stuff like that, to start a business. And like the guy said in the video, these are basic businesses that you can buy even. That's another aspect. You can buy or sell these businesses. So instead of investing a lot of money into high cost college institutions, you can invest in some of these businesses that are already generating an income, so you can create that stability. But people may not have heirs, or they might not want to leave it to the heirs. Maybe they just want the cash and don't want to worry about the dissolution of the business, or maybe they don't want to transfer it to a family member, relative, or whoever. So those are some of the things I think to consider in this aspect here.
One thing I wanted to add quickly before we go ahead and finish watching more of the clip, as far as education not being a way out, I wanted to add, I think he kind of alluded to it. People forget that you can go get an education and then inherit a business and take the business to the next level because of your education. Like, let's say grandpa got the business and he didn't go to college, right? And then grandson went to college and he got an accounting degree, and he comes in, and even if it's something as small as a parking lot or something, and quiet is kept while people are talking about small as a parking lot, laundromats are incredibly lucrative businesses. They are incredibly lucrative. Think about it in terms of this. If you own a parking lot, and you charge, you have a contract with a parking company, right? And let's say y'all charge $20 a day for parking. If you have 500 cars come through that a day, y'all do the math. I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician. Y'all do the math. You see what I'm saying? That's in one day. That's one day, and that's only 500 cars. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the month, how much money is that? And at the end of the year, how much money is that? That can be incredibly lucrative. Same thing with laundromats. People think about laundromats and they think about quarters, right? Like, oh, I gotta get my quarters for my washing machine and dryer. You know what I'm saying? But when people are over here using washing machines and dryers every day, all day, it becomes incredibly lucrative. My family, on both sides of my family, they owned dry cleaners. You know what I'm saying? And as much as you would think that it's not lucrative, my mother's mother, had 8 children. She was able to take care of her kids until my grandfather passed away. And then, my grandmother went on and got her master's degree. And then, and the same thing with my grandmother. She not only was she able to have her business, when my grandfather and her split, my grandmother went and opened up a restaurant because it created space for them to be able to continue to pour back into the community. And I think that it's important for us to remember that just because education, just because people think that, pushing education isn't going to allow for people to want to open businesses, I don't necessarily agree. Yes, it may want you to go, you may want to go work for someone making more money off the top, but business ownership is different, because you don't get the same kind of tax write-offs as you do when you own a business. There's so many different benefits to owning business and being a business owner that I think that should make it more desirable when the boomers leave. Because people are going to be looking like that stuff. And I think that the fear is when they leave, you're going to start seeing a lot of stuff closing. But I think that people are becoming more educated about business ownership now. And then to say no desire to work in the community, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think the problem comes from not wanting to work in the community. I think the problem comes from, like I said before, systemic racism and being able to get what is needed or required in order to be able to work in the community. And then, we also did a podcast on this a while ago. And it was about Black business ownership and, doing business with Black business owners, and the attitudes about Black business owners. I think that right there is more of the issue when you're talking about Black business ownership, and how we deal with our community as a whole. So, a lot of times we'll go in, I want to support this Black business, and the customer service is crap. You know what I'm saying? So I think we have to focus more on that aspect of it, because I do believe the ownership is there. And if we learn how to be better to one another, I think we have the ability to grow that and grow our communities. And that's the reason why I said from the beginning that unity could come from business ownership, the unity that our community, the diaspora needs, because, we're not unified like other communities, like the Jewish community or, the Asian community. We're just not. And so, I think that might be the key, because I think Tulsa is absolutely a good example.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when it comes to the desire, I kind of get where his point, where he was coming from in the video. A little pushback for you, Sam. Like, I think a lot of people don't want to actually build up like a lot of these businesses and things from scratch. They feel like the path to getting an education for 1 to 2 years, or maybe 4 years, getting a job at a big company, that's an easier path to success than maybe starting up a business and going through that process, right? And that's where I feel like with these businesses, there's an opportunity for a buy and sell, which I mentioned earlier before. So I think there is an opportunity for Black Americans if they want to take advantage of it and go through a buy or sell purchase of these businesses that are coming up. What are you gonna say?
For me personally, yeah. I don't know. I think, to push against what you were just saying, buy and sell. To me, I just kind of figure like, business is business, right? I think it's a little bit different when we look at it from maybe say like a real estate standpoint, because there's things that you can do to try to make the home more appealing, right? You can upgrade the kitchen, you can, remodel the bathroom, you can do certain things to standing structure that will make it more desirable maybe to other people. But the business is the business, right? The numbers are the numbers. So while you may come in here and you might buy it, I think there may be a way for you to come in, get the business, get it maybe running on track, maybe increase some of the revenue, things of that nature, and then sell it for, a bigger profit. That might make a little bit more, I maybe can follow that a little bit better. But to just think that you're going to buy the business and do like a quick turnaround, flip it for more, I really don't know how, because like I said, the numbers are the numbers. You know what I'm saying? Your revenue that you're receiving is going to base the valuation on what the company will be valued at. And then from there, they'll come up with the numbers. So I think like it'd be a little bit more than just a quick buy and flip type of situation. I think something like you just mentioned earlier, as far as marketing, learning how to market that business, maybe learning how, and then that's where we can use some of our skill sets that we have in trying to make a business more desirable, right? Learning how to increase the business presence online, learning how to use some of the different social media apps to promote the business. Those are things that we may be a little bit more familiar with than, say, a boomer and utilizing those resources to help build and develop a business. So those are things that I think that positively ways in which, individuals can come into a business and help bring it about. But one of the problems that I think that we do have sometimes is the point that a lot of people aren't willing to just put in the work. And I think that's sadly one of the factors that come into it. When we talk about business ownership, one of the biggest things that that we look at, and I think you kind of touched on this part though too, Malik, was that, at the end of the day, when you own a business, you're often the last person to get paid. You're making sure that all your bills are paid. You're making sure your employees get paid. You're making sure that, you take care of everything else, and then you'll get yours on the back end. And for some people, that's not desirable. That's not something, that's not stress that they would like to take on. Um, that's not something that they would be comfortable doing. They'll rather know that, hey, in another 2 weeks or another week or so, I'm going to receive X amount of dollars. And that's something that I can kind of rely on. That's something that's comfortable. That's something that's going to happen if it rains, sleet, hail, snow. Whereas if you're that business owner, if there's not people coming through that door, if you're not getting certain things through, you can't expect to receive what you may have received last month, this month, if things aren't, moving in that same direction. So there's a level of instability that comes with being a business owner that I think often deters a lot of individuals from wanting to take on that risk, right? Because as we all know too, a lot of businesses don't make it. But to the point that the guy was making, you're going into a company that already has a formula already proven, right? These people have been running these businesses for a while. It's not like you're buying a startup company that hasn't had its clientele, who doesn't have, repeat customers already, who does not have a model for how they want to present the business or how they execute things. So, it's almost like a ready-made situation. They just might need somebody with some younger legs who's willing to kind of run it a little bit more and take on a journey, just because due to their age, due to maybe their time frames, they may want to focus on other things in their life and not put working as their priority. So I do think that it is a good opportunity. I do just think that, again, to the point that Malik made, us as Americans, we sometimes, and Black Americans, we may just want that, okay, here is the, short and narrow. I know I got my job. I'm going to get paid X, Y, and Z when I get paid. And that's comfortable enough for us. Whereas sometimes you have to have a different risk tolerance to be willing to allow yourself to take on certain challenges that come with business ownership. But I think what a lot of times people don't understand too is what comes on the back end of that, right? Not only do you just get, the blessings of having an abundance or unlimited amount of income that you can make, you also have a certain level of freedom and responsibilities that come with that as well, that you may not necessarily always have when you're doing a job working for someone else. You may not have the ability to go pick your kids up in the middle of the day from daycare or whatever the case may be if you're working for someone else. You may not have the ability to coach a team or something like that if you're working for someone else. And a lot of times you can't have that ability even if you're working for yourself, because you're having to work a lot harder trying to get the business up and running. But I think, again, when you have a business that's already, going and already generating, you may not necessarily have to put in so much groundwork as you would for a new and up and coming business. And one thing that I think that I do kind of push back against what the video said as well was the fact that a lot of people aren't willing to become business owners. And I push back on that because we're coming out of the era of sign up for my class, I'm teaching how to do braids. Sign up for my class, I'm teaching you how to do credit repair. Sign up for my class, I'm teaching you how to do, wholesale, So we're coming from the ebook era. We're coming out of the constellation mentor era where everyone is looking to become business owners and they're looking to market themselves off and to kind of sell off some of their expertise. So I do think that Black Americans in particular have a desire for business and have a mindset to want to do business. I just think that sometimes it doesn't seem to be like a more brick and mortar type of style businesses. It seems to be like a lot more. What else we got? People doing
but that's due to technological advances though, and then AI and all this other stuff that's coming in. So that's everybody, not just
right. But I think some of the examples,
people don't want to do business though.
Right. That's what I was saying. I think that because people do want to do business, they're just not looking to do kind of like I said, the brick and mortar, the washer and dryer, like you said, like where you have to have an actual business, like, you know, a location that you go into.
Yeah, I get
to
what
do
you're
the
saying, because the
business.
baby
You know what I
boomers have
mean?
more of those traditional brick and mortar businesses,
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
feel
Where
like,
you,
yeah, the younger, millennials and other
yeah,
generations
they're looking to do
are
things
more
where you, like you
online and
said,
stuff. Yeah.
you may be doing the bath bombs or you doing like the lotions that you can do out of your house. You're not, ideally, you're not necessarily starting off looking at going to a warehouse to, you know what I'm saying, bottle up all of your lotions that you're making. You might be making it at the house. You might be making, even if you selling cakes or plates, you know what I'm saying? You don't have a studio kitchen that you may be using out of. You might be doing it out of your home at first in order to build up some clientele. And then, you know, you may grow the business to finding, you know, a manufacturing warehouse where they can mass produce some of your products. So I think that's something that, you know, we do see Black Americans looking to strive to make efforts in entrepreneurship. I just think that it doesn't seem to be more of like the traditional route in which, you know, we've seen some of the boomers do things. And I also feel like he was correct in saying that this is going to be a great opportunity for some people to take advantage of it, especially if you know somebody who has, we always talk about this too, a trade. You know, somebody that has like a trade business, you know what I mean? And they're getting a little bit older. They can't climb up into the areas and the sections that they used to be able to. You know, they can't necessarily go to the locations and do the things that they were able to do. So they need somebody a little bit more younger who can maybe hit the road a little bit more, who can go to these locations and make the changes that they need to make. So you guys, those are some of the issues that I was seeing, or some of the pushback that I had against it.
So I went to the numbers. I didn't pull up a lot of them. I just pulled up one for like a parking lot and one for a laundromat. And like on average, if a small lot owns 20 spaces and let's say they charge $10 per space per day, the gross revenue on that is $73,000 a year, right? And that's a small lot at $10 a day. Where I live, lots don't cost $10. It costs more than that. So I would say $20 and you double that for a small lot, you making $146,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? And of course, that's grossing. So of course you got to, you know, pay rent and maintenance and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you see what I'm saying? Like it can be lucrative. Now, with regards to a laundromat, like I said to you all before, people continue to think about quarters, you know, and how much money that is. Laundromats typically make about anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a day. That's $45,000 a month. You know what I'm saying? A month. That's what that's what the average Black person makes in a year. So yeah, you got to pay your rent. Yeah, you got to pay maintenance. Yeah, you got to pay, you know, if you employ people. Yeah, you got to pay for those things. But the amount of money you gross with a business that's already been established, and you just have to manage it and make sure, you know, the things are taken care of, and you own it, the amount of money you make off of it, I think that's another thing that we haven't touched on really at all. When you're talking about these small type businesses, these brick and mortar businesses, a lot of times people shy away from them too because they don't sound glamorous. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're thinking about owning a parking lot, that doesn't sound glamorous. You think about owning a laundromat, that doesn't sound glamorous. But when you start talking about money, people really got to start thinking twice about that, because it's not always about what sounds glamorous. It doesn't have to be a CPA firm or a law firm or anything like that. Communities need these businesses. And I think when people get so blinded by the glamour of it all, that they forget about how lucrative it is to meet the need in the community. Like in some cities, you can't even get to a grocery store. Like you have to go out of the city to get to the nearest grocery store. And having a grocery store in your community, although it doesn't sound the most glamorous, it is lucrative. And I think people should be focused more on that, on how you can, you know, maintain a lucrative business and can be a contributing member of your community and uplifting your community and finding positive ways to, you know, help build your community. We did a podcast on this too about how Black folks don't have community. Why? Because there's no unity. You need unity to have community. And if you have more Black people within a neighborhood, contributing to that neighborhood in a positive way, that helps create unity, which then builds a community. And I think, although education is important, building something within your community or in your neighborhood has the ability to go much further because it's generational, right? Like I have a bunch of degrees. I can't pass my degrees down to my kids or my grandkids. I can't, you know what I mean, give them off to my nieces or godchildren or nephews or whatever. You know what I'm saying? When I go, the education I got comes with me. The debt behind it might still stick around, but the only thing that people will get from me in the education that I have is what I've imparted on them. It's not, you know what I'm saying? So, but with a business, you can definitely pass those types of things down. And I think that people also have to remember to get out their own way and not be looking for everything doesn't always have to sound glamorous. Just remember that when you are being an active member of your neighborhood, you are helping to build a community and grow it. And so I think that as Black folks, we have to be more mindful of that too, because the way that it's structured right now, you have immigrants from other, countries who come into Black neighborhoods and they take the money from that neighborhood and they feed it into their own community. And so we have to be mindful of that. If we're trying to build a community, we have to remember, where is the money coming from and where is the money going, especially since Black people are the largest consumers in this country. We are absolutely the largest consumers in this country. So we definitely have to.
I wanted to say that about the whole unified statement that, I think we need to really have an agenda because I think, Black Americans are getting too complacent, and because you can shop at stuff, you got a little money in your pocket. If we take the Black Americans, the amount of money they spend and stuff like that, the GDP, if we correlate to GDP, would be really high. So people are comfortable, they're living a good life. But if they focus
to the people what that
shift it. What did you say, Sam?
Explain to the people what that is.
Oh, gross domestic product. Basically, it measures how a country is doing economically. It's an economic measurement that they use to determine a country's wealth, right? So currently, the U.S. is the number one in that. But if Black Americans was a country, it'd be like top 5, right? So that's the situation with Black Americans. They have the money to do stuff. It's just that they don't keep it within their community, which Sam was alluding to. And I'm saying we need an agenda. Like, what do we want as a group, as a people? And we need to focus on it. Not saying everybody's going to listen, but like as a group, as a community, this is our goal as a community, as a group. And I don't think most Black Americans can say that, because when Black immigrants come here, their goal and their agenda is, how can I make a better life, to send money back home to some of my family, back in my home country, stuff like that. Where can I go to find a community that's similar culture, all that stuff. But we isolate ourselves and we don't try to come together and build up our neighborhoods and stuff. We're starting to do it now, but that's the situation we need to really focus on instead of isolate, worry about minds, because even if you get in your money, you're alone, which makes you vulnerable, as opposed to if you have a community where people are thriving, you have more protection. So I think we need to definitely focus on community building. It takes work. Nobody wants to do that work. They don't feel like it's worth it. But I think in the long term, it's definitely worth it to build up the community, build up the businesses, try to buy or sell the businesses, and start them, whether it's traditional brick and mortar or even new type of tech businesses, new startups. But we need all of them, even the basic businesses that the guy alluded to in the video. You need the laundromats, you need the car washes. I mean, you need the grocery stores, like Sam said. You need some of these boring businesses that you're like, I don't think there's money in that. They have that. But what does your community need? Your community needs all of that stuff. And we would like to use that service. So
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think one of the things that also would help with that is our communities having an understanding of having a certain level of interdependency, right? Where we look towards each other, we look inward when we're trying to find certain things that we need to kind of sustain ourselves, whether it be, vegetables, groceries, things of that nature. If we have urban farms, if we have local communities, or if we do have suburban farms, where we have rural areas in which people have farmland, and they bring those things into the community, and maybe do little farmers markets, opportunities for places where they do maybe have what do we call them, deserts, where they're food deserts, and they can have opportunities for people to kind of come in, bring about fresh fruits, fresh produce, things of that nature, and work within those communities. I think a lot of times we've had a lot of groups within local communities try to do those type of things, where it might be nonprofits that may be offering, soup kitchens, things of that nature, to kind of, feed the community, and help. But I also think that, in order for us ultimately to get what was being discussed here in this topic overall, is for us to own some of those businesses that we have, and for us to look to support some of those businesses that's in our community. Once, we see some of the boomers moving out, once we see some of the boomers, you know what I'm saying, laying their hats down, that's our job to kind of take the torch and kind of run with it. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and go into our Black Business of the Month, which is, again, Takeoff Luggage. It is a company that provides carry-on luggage that would necessarily fit as or count as personal items. If you guys check out some of the bags, you'll see they have roller bags, but you can take the wheels off them, and they're fit in most situations inside of the personal item space bags that some of the airlines have. Where you I don't know if you guys are familiar with some of the measurement bags that they have, where they actually kind of see if your bag fits within the parameters that they have set for, either carry on or personal item type of bags. And so this bag is one of their bags, at least, are guaranteed to fit in most airlines personal item bags. So you can kind of get away with having like a suitcase for free. So for those who travel often and may have like a quick little trip, which you don't necessarily want to pay for a bag, that's an opportunity for you here as well. And that's with Takeoff Luggage. After that, we want to go into our book of the month, which is brought to us by Andre Iguodala, and it is The Sixth Man. It's basically a biography of Andre's life and some of the things that he's experienced as he ascended to becoming an NBA superstar, as well as his descension and becoming a role player on an NBA championship team. He talks about those, the things that he's experienced in life to kind of help him with that transition of being the man to now having to be a role player, but also coming in there with the mindset and the vigor to continue to be effective and to be someone that provides value to a team when you're not able to produce at a level that you once were able to. So that's a good book for people to understand how to gracefully age, if you will, and still continue to add value when you may not be able to produce at a level at what you once were. And lastly, I want to go into our motivational minute, which, we want to talk about when we look at this subject matter and all of the things that's talking about. One looks at the opportunity that can be provided to us if we were able to take advantage of the fact that these boomers are leaving, and they are going to leave a big hole for businesses to come up. It is one of the chances for us to kind of close some of those gaps that we have. One of the biggest things that we've seen recently too, or that's been talked about for years, is once the boomers kind of hit the Social Security system, how it might just crash the whole thing, and there may not be any Social Security left for some of us who've been working for most of our lives. When it's time for us to retire, this is an opportunity for individuals to kind of get ahead of that, and to take some of these things into their own hands by, creating their own businesses, or not necessarily creating their own business, but running with some of these businesses so that they can maybe set their own self up for a retirement plan and not necessarily look for Social Security as their sole opportunity for receiving retirement. Another thing that this also can do is, again, taking advantage of these boomers and some of their business that's closing, is giving us opportunities to get into areas and markets that once weren't available to us. And I think that's something that wasn't necessarily talked so much about in the video today. But we have to understand some of these businesses, some of these locations that these businesses are on weren't always readily available to some of us as we came up. We know about redlining. We know about some of the business practices that banks and things have used in the past to deny certain individuals opportunities, especially Black Americans, opportunities to receive funding. And so this opportunity that we're talking about today is a way for people to bypass some of that red tape that may have been put up years ago. And you kind of can, usurp that process by now taking over the company from someone else. So with that being said, I always say, keep your eye on the prize, always look around, be thankful, but also, be mindful of future ways in which you can usurp certain processes in order to achieve the goals that maybe your grandparents wasn't able to receive, but now we have the opportunity to receive those opportunities. To take advantage of those opportunities. And that's something that we can do to kind of correct those wrongs in the past. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody. I want to also ask that you like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell another friend to tell two more friends. Tap in with us. Let us know if you guys got any subject matters that you guys would like to hear us discuss. Any videos that you've seen that was kind of, any videos that you've seen that may have had you guys think, man, this would be something nice to talk about. Please share those with us as well. Our social medias will be posted here momentarily. And lastly, you guys can catch us live on Wednesday nights on Instagram. You can see us discuss about some of our weekly topics or things that we've seen going on. You can join in on the conversation if you would like to, leave comments, or you can pop up and discuss it with us on a panel. So with that being said, I don't know if any of my other co-hosts have anything that they want to say in closing.
No, I just really wanted to say thank you everybody for tuning in. And our social medias will be the outro. Thanks.
Now, we pretty much summed it all up. Thank y'all for tapping in, and we will see y'all on Wednesday.
All right, everybody. Peace.
Peace out.